Hello, everybody. I'm on here like a little bit early for some reason. I just hit go live before I was really ready. So, am I back online? Is it working? Oh man. Well, darn. I have no idea if I'm online or not. If anyone's out there, will you just hit in the chat that you can hear me? My computer's told me a couple times that okay, good morning. I see you. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jessica. I appreciate that. My twice it's done this weird thing. Okay. I had to change my location today, so I don't have the lighting that works as much. But our friend Irish Ryan is over, and he is this young kid from Ireland, but he's been all over the place, and he just lives on the road now and loves Rhonda. And he's young, and it's just fun to hear his stories of the night before. And anyway, he's such an enjoyable. He's in his late 20s, so it's fun to just sit and chitty chat. So he and Bud are doing their thing. Well, how are you all doing? This these are some like highfalutin, punch in the face kind of energies. I feel like, and navigating them is it feels as intense as it has been. This light's driving me crazy, but it also feels very different than when they were intense just weeks ago, but especially just, months ago. So what I mean by that is they used to be painful to navigate. And now I feel like the way in which we receive them is changing, and maybe that's because we've changed and we have become more of an open container to receive them. Okay, so how I see us, when we say we can hold more light, if you imagine that we are a vessel, we are a container, and how we have thought about ourselves and believed ourselves to be for millennia is that we are just these physical vessels. So these physical vessels, if in consciousness we believe that this is all the only way we receive energy in any way, but then also within this vessel are these like pockets of energies that are all blocking us up and restricting us in all ways. There wasn't very much space for us to receive energy of any kind, and energy being light and knowledge, new, expansion. So if we have a really small container and then it's all junked up with stuff, there isn't much that can fill that container. But over the course of the ascension process, we go through a cleansing, and we empty out this container and realize as we empty it out that, oh my gosh, I'm much more than this physical being. I'm this energetic being, and I also have a container there. And that container I find is very, junked up with old stuff too. So we then start cleansing and clearing that. That's our fourth dimensional self. And then we expand our container to realize that, oh my gosh, we are the spirit, we are the spiritual being. We are this energetic, integrated, ethereal being as well as a physical being. And as our container opens, now we have been cleansing and clearing and purging so much over the last many years of our lives. But for this community, we've pretty much been doing this for 6 months now, every single day, consciously purging all of the old, right? We've been doing this together. That's what we tune in each day to. This is our work to do today. And we've been doing that pretty consistently. Therefore, our containers are wide open and receptive now. So as this new, like these new, like literally, as new light comes in these higher frequencies, they bring in higher codes that flood into our container, and we're just like being fire hosed by these. So we have to be extremely conscious when we are navigating each day to how we are feeling. What are we noticing about our bodies? Is it too much? Because if it's too much, then we have to close off our container. We have to put the lid on for a minute, right? To let things settle. So I have been noticing that I'm very, very much having to practice, because as seekers on this journey for so long, we've been so open for knowledge, and this knowledge was to help us connect into this open container of akashic knowledge that is open and ready to be received by us. So as we start to then open up to that, now we are all of this knowledge is flooding in, and it's the our storehouse, the volume is up. So sometimes we have to kind of, put it down to a trickle so that we can just sit and allow the new knowledge to settle. I'm getting much practice with that, and especially after sharing with you all yesterday that, my plot twist came in, and I will tell you, like, it has rattled me for the last 24 hours. I was in, like, super joy about it when I was sharing with you on the Daily Tune In yesterday, because it was, a dream, pretty much a dream job, and it's at this point, um, it's still, I'm still working. As I shared, there's 7 steps to the process to become, to be considered as a viable applicant for this job that has been written by my soul. I mean, as I read it, I knew that it was for me, and I was in a big place of bliss. But then, as I sat with it, I realized I started to then pull in all aspects of my life. Remember that I left, actually, hold on, I did. Oh my gosh, it's right here on top too. Thank you to my guides. Remember this? So I started to sit with this this offer, or this opportunity last night, and I started to then look at, okay, so that would be considered my career or my creative path, because y'all, what is being asked of me is to research, a world like a world that has kind of gone in the wrong, like, not the wrong direction, but has gone in the darker direction, and the consciousness that created that, and to be a researcher of that, and to then also report on the consciousness of creating a completely different outcome. And that, to me, that's pretty much what we do here every single day on the Daily Tune In, is tune into the consciousness that creates the behaviors and what we're seeing in ourselves and in our global collective. And so this job is perfect. And it also travel will be provided. And every single thing that I have been expecting, because I received, and here's going to be a twist that I did. I said something about a contract. I received a contract for this particular role 2 years ago, but the contract didn't tell me what the mission or what the job would be. When I got the job, when it came through and I read it, I knew it was mine because I had already received the contract. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the Ascension Bank, because there's a lot happening there, and there's some more intimate information in this that, like, it's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody. It's my own personal stuff, but I want to share it with those who value this and invest in having deeper conversations around this. And our Ascension Bank members do that, and we do have a weekly call. So I'm going to be divulging more about this contract that I received 2 years ago, and now see how it is coming into physical reality. But as I sat with it overnight, I started to look at, how does this then affect or shift these other parts of my life? Because right now I'm pretty integrated for the most part. It's not perfect, But I know that as I keep practicing how I live right now, all of this will be balanced. I know how to balance out my life now, and I'm working towards full balance. Not full balance because I kind of like a little bit of chaos. However, when you throw in a plot twist goes it like really shifts one of these spokes. And when one of these big spokes goes, all of these big spokes go. They shift too. When you're integrated, you shift one, you shift all. That is, and I have lived that, right? I have lived that in my own life a year and a half ago, making a choice for our entire family. And that choice that I made shifted all of us. So what I learned from that is when you shift all of you, that sometimes some people bounce out, some things bounce out of your reality. So by taking and saying yes to this position and taking the next step to go down the process, the 7 steps of this rigorous application process, I'm also keeping in mind, is this something that I am willing to risk all of this for? So not only this plot twist sounds really, really good in a lot of different ways, and we design it to be, but it really does shift everything. And if we design this plot twist to be on our soul timeline, chances are everything that switches with it, everything, all of the other areas that also shift will most likely shift in a higher expression. But I wanted to sit with each one of these to be sure that I was in a healthy and pulled back perspective to look at every part of my life and say, am I willing to shift every single part with this saying yes to this plot twist? So we are being asked to spend time with this plot twist. But how are we going to know if it is actually a plot twist that applies to us? We are going to go back and look at that timeline, the wrinkle in time that we talked about. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago? I don't quite remember at this point because everything's just a mess now as time wise. But I want to read the message to you today because this all kind of brings everything together. So I'm just giving you the practical expression of how things are showing up in my life with these energies. And so I want you to kind of put together, like, how is this happening? What is your perspective of this same process? Because the same process of this plot twist coming in for you is happening. It is right there. We're gonna read it more. However, you have to look for it, and you can't look at it in the way that it's coming in for me. You have to look at it in the space where you would have written it to come into your physical reality. Do you get that? So I would have joked with myself and been like, you know what? For as much as she hates getting on Instagram, I'm going to send it through a DM because then she'll know it's for real. Because I always get on there and be like, oh, this is all these, like weird stuff that comes in the DMs. Like now, like that's why I've loved this community because now all of a sudden my DMs are filled with you all. So I was excited to get in and see what DMs I had about a good conversation that I love rather than getting like the weird DMs of like contests and all that crap that I don't participate in. But when I got this, I was like, oh, it's so funny. I sent myself like this plot twist through Instagram as a reward for getting on there because I typically don't like to get on to Instagram. So it's going to be like, remember, you will tickle yourself from laughing about how this plot twist comes to you. And it'll be so fun that you're going to get all high and you're going to get all like blissed out. And then you sit with it and it starts to settle, right? Because then you get to a point, like yesterday, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to like turn down the storehouse a little bit. I need some protection from these energies coming in for a minute because I need to let this settle. And as it started, as the water, the energy started to settle a little bit. And then I started to really think about, okay, what would my reality look like living as this, taking on this role in my life, career wise, so to speak. And there was a lot of bullet points that were really adventurous and big, and there were a lot of bullet points that I was like, that changes a lot of stuff in my life. So this plot twist is really big energetically. Okay, so it just like that's what we have to be prepared for. It's so big, like it feels like a whole whiplash difference that you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting things to change that much. So be with that. Okay, just be with that when I'm reading this to you. And this is the first time I've read this actually since I wrote it this morning. So hopefully it's grammatically okay. Okay, this is called A Wrinkle in Time. Dear one, when you entered that wrinkle in time that we spoke about the other day, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 days ago, but we talked about the wrinkle in time. You entered a timeline that had to play out. It's like making a wrong turn, and instead of being angry to the whole time you're lost, you paid attention on the journey. Okay, remember that wrinkle in time timeline we talked about 2 days ago? This is what it's referring to, that bump, that moment in time where you got bumped off of, the timeline you were on, and it kind of took you, like, sidetracked you. It took you on a wrinkle in time in the quantum, and you then landed in a timeline that they were saying we were going to go back to. And in my human interpretation, I thought, like, physically we're going back there. However, I believe this is it is going to be answered in this message. But this is the timeline that we're talking about, the one that we thought we were we're going back to relive, so that you could relive it in the full expression of what that timeline was supposed to be. So now that's the timeline. So keep that in mind. Okay. So this is like, I'm all over the place. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm just still processing all of this. Okay. Not all of it, the timeline was pleasant. When navigating your way back to your journey home, but most of it can be pleasant if you let go of anger and embrace curiosity. Why did I end up here will be a question that will serve you greatly when you take a wrong turn into a lower resonating timeline, like we did on that one timeline. Looking at the thoughts and feelings or the consciousness that led you to the decision to turn will tell you a lot about what was needed to be learned on that timeline. Did you get the lessons from that timeline? If Are you higher because of that timeline vibrationally? If the answer is yes, then sweet soul, the timeline wasn't wrong. It was chosen by you to get a firsthand view of human emotions, mentalities, behaviors, patterns, and consciousness. What if that timeline was written in to expand your being so much and to train you? What if it was research and development and maneuvers to ready you for this plot twist? What if it was the higher education you were required to have in order to ascend into the ranks you are stepping into with this plot twist? I think that's all interesting. Sweet soul, that is exactly what it was. There is no need to relive that timeline if you fully trust 100% that there is nothing to go back and redo. There is only one reason that timeline happened: to allow you to be fully trained for the life that is unfolding before you now. Okay. And I snap because I want to make another wrinkle in time on that frequency, that the life that is unfolding in front of you now is your plot twist. Affirm that, snap that into reality. That's how we also bring a frequency into the physical, by giving it a sound, letting that's how we kind of turn the dial a little bit. I've just affirmed something for us, and this is for you too. This is our training. We affirm something. My plot twist is unfolding in my life starting now, and that then creates a wrinkle in time, a new timeline. A wrinkle, what does a wrinkle do? A wrinkle can bring a wrinkle. See, if you're here in a vibrational frequency, and you create a wrinkle and it bends down time, you can then come back in at a higher frequency simply by affirming through consciousness, right? Consciousness creates reality. You think, you feel, you affirm, you release it in the physical, and it is done. So when you create a wrinkle in time, you are kind of jumping up in kind of layers or degrees in frequency. So therefore, in every given moment, if and when you are affirming everything that you want to see in this plot twist, you see something that tickles you and you're like, wow, that just tickled me. I'd love to see more of that and have more of this feeling in this plot twist. Thank you very much, abracadabra. So it is what I always say. I'm constantly affirming and moving up in the quantum using sound and using my voice, using vibration, using thoughts, using emotion. And in that moment, in that space, I am as the 0 point momentum required in order to create a reality shift. The more we are consciously aware and shifting ourselves and creating those wrinkles in time, the more we are ascending higher and higher so that we have a higher and higher perspective of the reality that we're operating in right now. So the more that I affirm and really create in every given moment a wrinkle in time, I'm getting a higher version of this reality I'm living. Therefore, I can see more and can change direction if I need to. So as I go through this 7-step process, the next steps of accepting or experiencing this plot twist, I'm actually tuning into each step saying, how does this still feel? Does this still feel in sovereign alignment to what I want, to what my vision looks like? Does it fit and integrate all aspects of my life? If the answer is yes, and then keep going. So you're saying, you can say yes to your plot twist as it shows up, but you can always pivot if there was something. Sometimes we think we want something till it starts to get closer, like, ooh, that doesn't actually that doesn't appeal to me anymore. It doesn't feel as good. And as long as we're doing it from a choice of, no, I don't want that, then we shift. So with this job, and this is why I say this, with this job, it is stretching me so much to see myself in it that as I take a step, I'm having to stop at every given moment and saying, checking in, is this fear? Okay, is this fear because it doesn't feel right? Or is this fear because it's just stretching me? And so far, it's been because I'm just so stretched. I would never imagine this for my life. And yet, what I said a year ago when I left Austin was that I'm leaving to go live the unimaginable. And now it is showing up. So I'm going to keep going. We're almost done here. Sweet soul, what that is exactly what it was. That, remember the maneuvering, the higher education, that timeline that you feel like you got bumped off, and we all kind of went pain and suffering through that, just learning the lessons and using it for our awakening. It was the painful side of spiritual awakening, that timeline. That is exactly what it was. It was training and development for you to be prepared in this now moment with this plot twist coming now. So here, that's what it was. It was your training. There is no need to relive that timeline if you fully trust 100% that there is nothing to go back and redo. There is only one reason that timeline happened: to allow you to be fully trained for the life that is unfolding before you now. It may scare you a little at its change in direction. It may intimidate you. You may ask, how can I possibly do this life, this job, this mission, whatever the plot twist is when it shows up? Yet something stirs within, reminding you that for you are destined for this plot twist. Fear is no longer part of this. It's been transmuted to excitement, which will feel similar at first glance, but upon deeper reflection, you'll feel a difference. From here on out, you do not need to relive that timeline. If you so choose to close that timeline, knowing it is already done, it has played itself out, and you are at peace right now, you declare You declare and decree that I dismiss and close that old timeline, and you leave it be for the full embodiment of who you've become because of it. If you choose to relive it, you will be brought there in the astral for you to relive. So this is in your sleep at time. Your so it's not a physical thing. It doesn't have to. It's not a physical thing. Remember, the astral realms do not operate in linear time. Therefore, traveling to that timeline, reliving that timeline as your higher self, then returning back to your body will not require the same amount of time the actual timeline lasted in linear time for you. When completed, you will be brought back in this now moment and energetically bump to the with the plot twist timeline. That creates another wrinkle in time, sending you on a wave of high vibrational energy that surfs you into the timeline with the least resistance. The only resistance you'll experience is your own resistance to the flow of good that will happen in your world. It will stretch you, it will challenge you. Old patterns will need to be overcome with new patterns of receptivity and worthiness. Sweet soul, you are good enough, worthy enough, and downright ready to be fully supported by the karmic storehouse unfolding in your world right now. If you are 100% ready, then look around you. The first clue, okay, pay attention to this, y'all. This is so fun. If you are 100% ready, then look around you. The first clue in your plot twist timeline lies in your space. It is subtle. It may seem ordinary until it just isn't. You know it's different, and it is. Follow the steps the clues take you on, for as you walk forward through the clues, you are aware you are in the portal, the transition to birthing the plot twist, and nothing will ever be the same. That feels true, and that has also felt like my experience with things feeling a little bit too much too soon. And yet I'm like, I've been waiting for this for forever. And the other thing too about this plot twist that I find is very interesting is the process is sitting with it. Even the process it's taking me through is showing me is refining the skill sets that I know that I've been tested in previous kind of lifetimes. Ukraine in the last like Mexico before that. So I go by very small lifetimes. And I lost my train of thought there. Sorry. So this was a lot. I feel very discombobulated for today for some reason. Maybe, and I think it's just because it's all. I feel a little scattered. I think with between all of the energies plus all of this new stuff in my world and figuring out what like not figuring out anything, but just letting it all settle and being with it all until I have acclimated to it, to everything, and then starting to take some steps and really looking at it from a different perspective. I'm in that process, so I do feel a little bit fragmented, but simply because I'm just processing of some big plot twists that have shown up. So I do have evidence. I know this is happening. These energies are too big. We can look back around in our world of social media and other places that we all connect, and we can feel that something is happening. We know something is happening. We see it on other channels, and there is quite a lot shifting literally in hours now, from day to day, hours to hours. Like you can feel reality shifting, you can feel time shifting, and kind of like morphing a little bit. So there is something very spiritual happening right now, and there is something very um, I want to say scientific, but something, astrologically that's happening all, at the same time. Does one create the other? That's a whole conversation, but it's both. Both are going on at the same time, and both have extremely high effects for all parts of us. So all parts of us are zinging right now, and feeling good, and then pulling in new information, and then feeling bad because we didn't already know it, and then we got to sit and purge the bad, and like all the things. So there is so much happening at the moment. But I do hope that if you just kind of weren't sure about today's message, it feels like I'm recommending to go back and listen to it again, because there was a lot, underneath that. There's a lot that's between the lines. Therefore, listening to it and hearing it again and again is probably very helpful, because you'll hear it in different ways and you'll hear different parts, and it'll start to spark some of the information that was originally laid there when I first read it. So I know it was a little clumsy and messy, and I will work on that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it messy, because I don't need it to be perfect. I'm just getting the message out. So let's see what you guys have to say. Had an amazing clearing cry yesterday. First one since this wrinkle arm thingy. Nice. Very good. Aloha. You are going through a plot twist consciously instead of unconsciously, as you did when you left Austin. I feel like when I left Austin, I feel like I did. Oh, the plot twist. Oh, I see what you're saying, Mary. Okay, I think let me affirm this. That's a good point. So we have had, okay. So that last timeline that this is what where I'm going. This is where I'm being taken. That last timeline that that caused the bump in the bump and the wrinkle in time of that timeline, that maybe is a timeline where you're like, man, everything went off the rails a little bit at that point, and yet probably most likely is a timeline that opened up your spiritual awakening. um, so that trigger for me personally, that was triggered unconsciously. And it was kind of like, I guess I wasn't triggering, I wasn't choosing change when I was being nudged. Therefore, the cosmic 2x4 came into my world and just blew it all up, and was like, and it came out in the expression of finding my former husband with another woman, and all the in my house. So that was the trigger. That was the timeline that shot me off. And I kind of went off, but like at the same time, I ended up where I am right now, and it worked out all right. But if I could, there was a lot of the word that was interesting that they used. I've never had regret, but I have had much desire in my heart. I was like, man, if I could go back and relive um, the days of being a mom, because I was a really, I can say this pretty confidently and truthfully, because I feel it and I know in my heart that I was the best mom that I could have been, with a lot of like living most of my life as a mom with fucking chaos in my life all the time. Just like trying to keep it normal when my world is pretty much a mess 90% of that time. And yet, when I look back on that time, I was very aware of being with my kids, and they are my priority. So I know that I like, but yet there's that part of me that's like, well, like, how would we have this ended up if I had been able to be this, if I went into that world as the consciousness that I am now, and from baby stage, raise them that way, and just make a truthful decision. Because truthfully, y'all, I wish I would have left in that moment, but I held on for 10 more years to that marriage, just trying to make it work for the kids. And yet I just kept getting more evidence and more evidence as to why I wasn't on the right path with that particular partner. So I'm like, man, I could have saved myself a lot of time. And I'm sure you all have had that thought too, of like, man, if I would have just like, if I just would have known what I know now. And yet we are being affirmed. We are confirming that was a plot twist that was written in for you, but because you wouldn't choose it, your soul came in and chose it for you. And it just, and it showed up in a dramatic way. But now we get to navigate this plot twist consciously by writing it ourselves, by it's already been written by our soul, but we just catch up to it and say, oh, that's what's happening. So that's what's happening in that moment. I read that invitation in my Instagram DMs, I knew that that was these two timelines coming together, where I've already written in what the plot twist was, and I've gotten in resonance enough that I could pull in the plot twist and be like, yeah, let's do that one, let's do that one, and then it connected in the physical world by being a message in on Instagram. So yes, having these plot twists, it's a really different reality. It's a really different experience when one side of it is unconscious, and finally they're like, you're not like, we're trying to make this easy for you, just follow our guidance, and you're like, oh, but I don't want to have that conversation, that sounds really scary, I'm going to avoid it. Oh, there's an opportunity, but I'm going to avoid it, because you avoid the pain, and all of a sudden then the 2x4 comes in, and the pain just erupts in a really big way in your face, in a surprising dramatic way, and that plot twist happens, and you go on the karmic journey to heal it. But you've already written that, and this timeline that we have been talking about, do you go back, do you relive it? It is time. It was part already of your life. It was written in, it's done. Therefore you can put all of your attention on this next timeline, this plot twist, and let everything now go. You know enough now. You did write that for yourself. You're welcome. You've lived it. And now it's time to look forward and start in, actually not forward, look here right now in your space and start looking for clues that you have left for yourself that will then take you into the portal that is this wrinkle in time that is already in existence. The portal is taking you to that higher reality. I feel like I've rambled a lot, you guys. So I'm gonna go, but I hope I crack the code soon. I'm an emotional mess, Lisa. Oh, messy is beautiful. Oh man, Mary and Lisa, you guys would love each other. We need to get you connected. But yes, Mary, like messy. I'm so messy. Today's daily tune in is just messy. I had a couple messy ones that, in a different ways where I was crying, but this one's just messy because I can't quite put my words together and I'm stepping all over this message. But I know that the coding is there. I know we're all like, I'm messy as all hell, I'll get up. But I don't think that there's anything to crack. I think you've already cracked the code, lady. Like I know you have. You've already cracked the code. It's just allowing, that damn divine timing thing to deliver the plot twist. But because this community is co-creating this, there are some of us that are already consciously aware of our plot twists showing up. Therefore, because this community is co-creating and we are one existence right now, it's your reality too. So it's around, and the fun part is being okay with being messy, or being okay with not being okay at the moment, and just being at peace with it and having fun looking for the clue, or going, and the clue basically is behind the place where you look around, you're like, what would I most enjoy, getting into right now, and following that. And that clue may not be something physical. It might be an idea that you're like, oh, that's a really great idea. And in that moment, you decide, I'm going to follow that. And then you go in that direction and you become really fluid by following the clues. And the clues is really felt first in the portal of your heart, and it brings through an idea that you bring into reality in an integrated way, and you are now walking your soul's path. So if you can just accept, we can all accept that it is really that easy in any given moment to say, where would I love to be right now? Where would I love to go? What would I love to do? If it could be that simple, that's part of this experiment, is to truly experience the now moment in full peace and in full joy, and have the courage to do that even when there's chaos going on. I think we can handle that. And we're being asked to just simply be in that space for 90 days so that we can be open containers for the information that is attempting to pull in new upgraded programs for us. This flood that is flooding into our container, this flood of light energy, knowledge, wisdom is now coming in, and each one of us is pulling information that is completely unique to us. So my perspective that I share here is very different from your perspective, Jessica, and yours, Christine, and yours, Lisa. So that's on our daily or on our Ascension Bank calls. We're going to come together in a little bit here today. And I'd love for it to hear your all's perspectives because we are all piecing together this puzzle that is called ascending into this fifth dimensional reality from a third dimensional reality when no humans have ever done that. And like, we don't know really what we're doing. We're all just putting our experiences together and figuring it out as we go and interpreting it in the language that we get to interpret it in. So on this call, on our calls, I think we really need to be speaking about how is it showing up for you, and maybe we can help each other in finding and connecting some dots so that we are able to put this reality together in such a conscious way that it just happens, and all of a sudden we look around at one point and we're like, this is kind of everything that I've ever wanted, so I know that I'm close to it. So anyway, that's where we are. I'm running out of steam and I'm rambling. Thank you for my clunkiness, being patient with me, y'all. I love you so much. I'm going to go and drink some water and refresh myself and be back on with many of you for the Ascension Bank call. I look forward to seeing you, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Tune In for whatever comes next. But really, really pay attention to creating a conscious wrinkle in time into this plot twist and look for the clues. Mwah! They're there, I promise. The drop has been made.